Christmas Day at the bach this year was attended by about 20, but I had to spend the time in my camper having caught the flu, and I didn't want to spread it. By the time I got to Waimana on the 8th of January, most of our crowd had left, so I only spent 3 days there before heading south. After filling up with fuel at Wairuru, the van wouldn't start, so a tow to Taihape saw me a couple of days later with a new alternator close to Whaka. This is a favourite spot of mine at Awastone under the Papa Cliffs. There was once a power station just down the road, so I walked in the path to the site of the dam. Travelling over the Ruahine Ranges, I came to the very aptly named Dress Circle. A side road led to a very pretty waterfall, a lovely spot for lunch. The drive through the Pahiatua Valley had some very nice areas, and I walked the Pahiatua walk. What huge trees! This pretty little Anglican church had a very novel idea of a cross to hold the ashes of those cremated. I walked the nature trail at the Nature Reserve just a little further down the road and found that very interesting too. I didn't go far in the fern walk. It was 2 to 3 hours and the track was very muddy, but lots of nice ferns on the way. I'm surprised I didn't take more photos at these gardens, but I spent so much time talking to the lady owner and asking what all the plants were that I had never seen before. The Ashurst domain was right beside the cemetery, but very pleasant anyway. Then it was on to Palmerston North, and this was the Victoria Gardens along the esplanade. It was a Sunday and the children were out in force and having a wonderful time. From a platform in the centre of the rose garden, I took a 360-degree view of the layout. I've never seen one that was better. Each plot held a different rose, and they were all named. I just caught a glimpse of the little train going around just before I left the gardens. I found the wind farm at Apathy very interesting, with all the information that they supplied there. Pahiatua was a pretty little town with a strip of gardens running down the centre of the main street. This land had been reserved for a railway that never happened. I particularly enjoyed the celebrity walkway with the names and foot and handprints of a lot of New Zealanders that I recognised. An organised school holiday outing. After many years of lobbying the government to build this bridge, the local settlers got to and built it themselves. Unfortunately, there was insufficient reinforcing in it for it to stand the test of time, and is no longer used. On now to the Mount Bruce Wildlife Sanctuary and an interesting talk on the life cycle of the New Zealand native eel. Next we watched feeding time for the kakas. They're not confined at all, they're free to leave if they want to, which of course they don't. I spent the night at Mount Holsworth in a dock camp before going on to Stonehenge. The approach is well laid out with some colourful gardens. Much thought has gone into the astrological planning, and the Maori aspect has also been brought in to illustrate the New Zealand nature of the placings. A comprehensive video explains it all. I carried on further south to the south coast, south and east of Wellington, and along the road towards Cape Palliser. There's the lighthouse and the steep climb up to it. While I was focusing on these ones out on the rocks, I heard a bit of a grunt beside me, and there was one on either side of me, right up by the road. Not dead, but obviously very tired or ill. Talk to me. That's right, open your eyes. Good on you. You're sick. I drove up to Lake Wairarapa for lunch. And then I wanted to see Waihi Falls. It was a long, long road through Greytown, Masterton, Pongaroa, with narrow, winding gravel road with few road signs. The falls were a bit disappointing also, as there hadn't been a lot of rain. The Scandinavian influence shows in Dannevirke and further on at Norswood. I climbed the horrendous steps up into the troll cave. It was pitch dark in there, and I had to use the flash camera to see what I was supposed to be looking at. On now to Hastings and the Nature Reserve, where I often camp, right opposite the beach. While I was in Napier, I went through the aquarium there. There's a pond where rescued fairy penguins are looked after and rehabilitated. Lunch on the foreshore at Napier, and then out to Nicky and Ant's place out of Hastings. Nicky's in her element with all these animals to care for. This little fellow was rescued from a farm at only 3 weeks old and demands constant attention. The stately home and guava gardens are not far away from Nicky's place. I headed across the hills to Taupo and stayed out near the Aratiatia Rapids, and of course had to watch the release of water once again. I had a most enjoyable stay at the Equestrian Centre, not far from the rapids. And then went on to Lake Pahiatua. That's a dock camp, well set up with composting toilets and a shower shed where you could hang your solar shower. There were lots of families there. It was still school holidays. And that night I went on to the Rotorua City Council camp, which was much quieter. I spent the night there. The next morning all these geese came in and were heading down to the water. Then I went on to Lake Whenua. They were having a sports day the next day, so I couldn't get down to the power station, but it was worth staying for the sports day. The kids were having a wonderful time on the Flying Fox. One of the most interesting parts of it was watching this Maori instructing the novices on how to handle a Whaka. Then it was back to Auckland for the hospice fundraiser. Friday was the fundraising day where there were stalls set up selling plants and food and preserves and anything else that they could think of to make some money for the hospice. Down below was this garden, and all these little gardens were the right size for the chook pen to be put across them. The next 2 days were devoted to open gardens, all 21 of them. Rain and repairs to the van stopped my photography until a week later I went up to Coromandel. On my way across to see waterworks, I came across this pig farmer. All the pigs were perfectly free to roam, but why would they when they were being so well looked after? The owner told me that they were a cross between the native New Zealand pig and a French breed. None were ever sold or killed. They were free to breed as they wished. They know when the farmer goes across to the van that they're going to get fed. Waterworks has been recognised as the #1 theme park in New Zealand for several years. Back in Coromandel now, these are the charging stations for electric cars. They have them at 80-kilometre intervals. Then I headed up the west coast of the Coromandel Peninsula on my way to Fletcher's Bay at the very top. The Port Jackson campground was a narrow strip along the beach, and with the possibility of Cyclone Gita coming in, I decided to go further up to Fletcher's Bay. I was so glad I did. Plenty of room, showers, toilets, all the facilities, and a lovely bay as well. Then I went on up the eastern side of the Coromandel Peninsula. My first stop was a lunch stop at Little Bay. I stopped at a Kiwi call box. This is a female Kiwi call. And this is the male Kiwi call. This is the beach at Port Charles. The most northerly bay on the eastern side at the end of the road is called Stony Bay. Guess why? Travelling south now on the northern beaches of Mercury Bay. They're very motorhome unfriendly. No camping on any of the beaches or any of the surrounds. This one is Opito Bay. It was a different story when I got to Whitianga, and this was my overnight stop there, along with about 12 or 15 other vans. Next stop was Hot Water Beach. My next stop was at Mercury Bay. Inland from there is the Broken Hills area, a gold mining place from years back. You can see why it's called Broken Hills. I walked up the track to the site of the old gold battery. Not a lot of it left now, but you could see where it was. Then I did the other easy walk, not much uphill. Lovely clear water. I don't think her partner will ever make a camper out of this girl. She was working on her eyes for about 10 minutes and then it was a turn for the face. Almost back to Auckland now, and I decided to go out to Waiapa, to an area that we used to take the boys fishing. This was the shelf they used to fish off, and we were living there round about 1960. This is the MCA camping area that they've put in on the bank above the wharf. Wasn't there when we were there.